All right, guys. Hey, welcome to the Family First Life West Coast podcast. Today, guys, I've got a great special guest on today that I think you'll relate well to. I think a lot of times in this business, you can listen to podcasts, you can listen to different people, and I think that you can come to this thought, which I don't think it's necessarily right, but I do think it can hold you back from hearing it. And that thought could be, well, man, that person's been doing this for so long. Sure, they're out there seeing success. And by the way, that is probably true, right? Somebody the other day said, man, Paul, it's great to see what you've accomplished. It's like, dude, it's been 15 years. I don't think I've accomplished anything, by the way. That's one of my struggles. But after 15 years, if you still suck, man, they should take you behind the barn. That's, I guess, like an old country, take him behind the barn. And what happened? He just didn't come back. He went behind there and never showed back up. That's what they should do, because after that many years, you've got to be able to go out there and see success. And so, but today, guys, I've got somebody that's been, with us for not a very long time, but she's out there now helping 20 plus families. I'm really confident that, when she says she's going to go out there and help 30, 40 families, I can see it. I spoke to her the other day and I'm like, I can see that. And she's got a lot of good things going on. And I'm really excited for her to share with you guys today. So with that said, I want to introduce and welcome Afro on the call today.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me, Paul.
Well, it's good to have you on. All right. Well, I want everybody to get to know you a little bit. For one, just so you knows, and you got a name that, your title of your name is there. So they know that your name is not Afro. I call you Afro, but it's Afroditi. And I want them to get to know you though. Talk a little bit about, like, what did you do prior to Family First Life? And let's kind of start there, your background.
Okay. So I was working for a bank for about 6.5 years. And at the same time, I was going to nursing school. That's my background.
So banking and nursing school.
Correct.
Did you ever go into nursing, or were you just currently in the education process?
Yes. So I did my internships. I was in hospice care. I graduated the January of 2020. So the middle of the pandemic, literally. And I kind of saw the worst of it. So. Got
it. So what you kind of thought it was going to be when you probably entered into that career, that schooling, right, to go out and pursue that, you found out it wasn't exactly what you thought it was. Is that kind of?
Yeah, I have I'm very kind, and I get very attached to my patients, and seeing them, getting attached to them for months and then having them die was very difficult. So that was my biggest thing.
Got it. Now, were you looking for an opportunity, because you're in banking and then you were going through the internship with that? Were you kind of open-minded, like looking for something, or were you actively looking for something, or just where were you at with that?
No, I was fully invested into nursing, to be completely honest with you. I was passing my exams, doing my internships, and yeah, I was working at the bank, and I had joined a couple of Zooms because of one of my clients used to work for Family First Life. And I just had someone in my life at that time that was doing life insurance. So I kind of followed, and I ended up just going with Family First Life rather than the company that they were with.
So it was kind of brought to your attention. It wasn't something that you were seeking. So
no.
Kind of like take a look at this opportunity. And when you saw it, what attracted you to the opportunity?
Well, it was, first of all, the comp, and that everyone was very independent. I was working 9 to 5, and at the bank, I was going to work at 7:45 in the morning, running meetings, and leaving the bank at 6:30 at night. And I remember I used to just look out of the window and watch my car outside and just hope for 6:30 to come so I could leave. And I hated that feeling. So just knowing that I had my own ability, being able to build my own schedule. I'm also very invested into my nephew. I raised him for a while, so I wanted to make sure that I had the ability to be there for him. So that was one of my things too.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's such a big deal, like Afro, if everybody's on here listening, what I'm hearing is like, you weren't actively looking for an opportunity, and it almost seemed like you didn't know that you wanted an opportunity. Cause like we can have certain feelings, like I hate that feeling that I'm not passionate about what I'm doing, or I hate the fact that I don't have freedom or schedule, but we don't ever rise above that initial emotion or that initial thought. We just kind of have it, and then we just stay stuck doing what we're doing, right? And then I think that that's why it's so important for us to go out there and share the opportunity with people and not prejudge, because there was probably nothing about how you held yourself or the your conversations with people that would get anybody to think like, oh, she's really looking for something. There was probably nothing that would have gave somebody that kind of inclination, right? But for somebody just to say, hey, take a look at this opportunity. Maybe this is something that you'd be a good fit with, and not prejudge and understand that our job to really serve people and give people an opportunity is not to go out there and have great success today if you're brand new. It's just, do you care enough about somebody to just share it? Because you don't know who's out there that's like you, Afro, that's like in this kind of quiet desperation of like, they don't really know that they're not in a good spot or not happy or fulfilled. But when it's presented and then you say, wow, I would love to have more freedom in my schedule. Man, I would love to know that sounds good. And then all of a sudden they start being more aware and cognizant of like, man, I am really not in a great spot. And this might give me what I'm looking for. And I just think that that's such a great way you articulated really how most people probably look at this business and why it's so important to warm market recruit and to share the opportunity and send DMs on social media, because you just don't know. You just don't know. But the people that are the best are like you, Afro, that are not filling out resumes saying, I got to get out of here. They're just kind of going through the motions and trying to do the best of what they've got their hands on. They're the ones that actually have the best ability to go out there and see success. And so I absolutely love that. Afro, how would you describe your start with Family First Life?
My start was interesting. I was in a very interesting position when I first started, honestly. It was a little crazy. I had just gone through a crazy breakup. I had actually just moved over states, kind of lost everything. So my main focus was to pass my exam and get started. As soon as I got licensed, I went to the convention. I hadn't even been contracted yet. Hillary helped me get contracted in Miami. Actually, it was intense. But yeah, I just went to the convention and I paid attention. I took a lot of notes. And I was like, all right, this is what I need to do. I kind of put a list together of what I needed to change in my life, my activities, my discipline, and what I needed to do to start. So I kind of just plugged into an office and went from there, honestly.
So, and I didn't know none of that. Like, you're at convention, that's where you kind of put together the roadmap for the year, like for your start, really your launch.
Yeah.
Do you think that if you miss convention, that it would look a lot different now than it does?
I don't even think I would be fully invested if I hadn't gone to the convention, honestly. The convention changed my life, to be completely honest.
Why do you think that is? Like, what happened? Did they like throw like pixie dust on you? Like, come over here.
No, I was in a very emotional state in my life because of everything that had happened. So all the speakers, and honestly, even Pastor Matthew, he was very motivational, and I already knew I needed to focus, change my life, and I already knew I wanted a new career. I was already over nursing, to be honest with you. It was exhausting, and there's a lot of things that I had to change, like small things like drinking water, waking up at a certain time, don't hang out with certain people, don't entertain certain, you know, people in your life, to just be a little bit more disciplined and more self-aware.
I love that. So the convention really kind of laid the foundation for you to build what you built in 2022. And I think that's important for everybody to not just like overlook that, because there's somebody on here that, they know it's important to go, right? But there's an obstacle. Maybe it's like, man, I'm just getting started and the finances are tight. Or maybe it's I got to figure out a babysitter situation. I mean, because these are, I guess, obstacles that I could think of for myself personally. My first conference, it was like, I have 2 nickels. Like, how do you rub those together and create more? Like can they have babies? Like I didn't have no money, right? In fact, the funny thing is, I was talking to an agent about this, and I said, I got to ask my mom this because I've never asked her. But like, to go to my first convention, I sold my snowboard. I mean, I was 19 and like, that was my deal. Like, I loved snowboarding. So it was a big deal. Like, there was a sacrifice. So I sold my snowboard. And then my mom, now this is at a prior company where the conference ticket costs like $700 to go. And then you still had to get your plane ticket. It wasn't free, like we're the only, company that has a free event like that. And it's going to cost like $7+ million. Like it's definitely not free by any, not even close to being free. But and then my mom gave me some money. And I got to ask, like, Mom, where did you get the money from? I don't know what she did to come up with this, because my mom's on disability, very low income, and I pay for all her bills now. Praise God that I'm able to do it. But I never thought, like, how did she have? Because she was like, here, she's believed in me and gave me a couple $100, right? And so, I think there's people that are holding on to those excuses, and you call them what you want to call them. Maybe it's a reason or whatever. But what would you tell that person that is kind of got these obstacles in front of them? Like, what would that conversation be to kind of get them to understand that this is really life or death for their business to get there?
Well, like you talked about sacrifices. I feel like if it came down to a different event per se, like starting your business or having to pay rent, one way or another, you would figure it out. So even if it takes, I don't know, maybe working an extra 3 hours or even door knocking on a Saturday, which typically you wouldn't do, that could be the extra few $100s for your ticket to go to the convention. And some people don't want to door knock or don't want to work on a Saturday or Sunday, maybe make that extra sacrifice.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think to take it extreme, because I like going extreme sometimes. Like if you have two kidneys, I think you only need one, is what I've heard. Is that true?
Yes, it is.
So
You
I
can.
mean, I don't know what a kidney goes for nowadays, but you got something to sell, man. Like you got to get there. It's everything for you. So, um, the funny thing is, and this is not funny, but it shows commitment. And when I think of these people, I can give you their names, but every one of them has seen great success. There has been, and this is at the prior company, because you had to pay for these tickets were expensive, right? $700 to get there. That would pawn their wedding ring, get there, and then get their business going and get it back. Like that. How do you not see success if you're willing to sacrifice that much and show yourself that I'm that committed? I love what James Clear says. He says, like, every decision you make is casting a vote for who you see yourself to be, right? And that not one vote is going to determine your identity and how you hold yourself, but over a period of time those votes start to add up, and those votes will eventually determine how you see yourself, and how you see yourself determines what you do, right? And so every time you can take a look at every little choice. That's why, like, everything matters or nothing matters, right? Everything matters. And so all these little things make a difference. And so as you go into conference, the person I think that has more stacked against them but yet goes and gets there, I just think they have a better chance of seeing success, because they leave with this massive vote that's casted that says, man, I'm committed. Like, I'm serious about this. I'm going to do what it takes. And I think that can lead into so many different areas of the choices they'll make in this business to really let that happen and come to pass. And so I think it's a big deal. Afro, if you're going back to day one, and you're talking to yourself, right? So if we had the benefit of doing that, and you said, okay, I've got the experience now of, what has it been, a year? I guess it's been right about a year, right?
I actually didn't start until July, almost end of July.
Okay. So only 6-7 months.
Yes,
So if
full
we,
time.
if we look at the last 6 months, all the stuff that you've kind of learned and evolved through, and you're going back to day one, and you're giving yourself advice, like, and you got to tell yourself, like, hey, do this quicker, or don't do this at all, or what you think is really isn't. So don't let that hold you back, or what you think isn't is. Make sure to what would your advice be to day one?
Okay, consistency by far. Because in the beginning, when you're coming from a different business, like a 9 to 5, you write a few policies, you'll get paid a few $1,000s. You're like, oh, this is great. And then you won't grind as hard. It kind of starts to slow down a little bit. I feel like you have to keep the momentum going, because then you'll start getting chargebacks. Then you have to invest more. And in the beginning, I was being super stingy on investing in leads. And I wish I hadn't been that way. Now I'm like, oh, leads, yes, give them to me wherever. I'll buy any lead. It doesn't matter to me. I become like a lead junkie. It's bad. But
You're gonna get
it's
addicted to anything in 2023. Get addicted to some lead
it's
purchases. It's probably one of the
it's
better ones.
obsessing. It's
Well,
obsessing,
what do you
like,
mean by stingy? Like, kind of break that down. How are you stingy? Like, how did that show up? You being stingy with leads?
well, because I would try to redial the same leads that I had. Like if they answered the phone, or if I hadn't door knocked them, I would try to redial them for like 2 or 3 dial days. And that's not realistic. I'm every dial day I have new leads. There's no way.
So,
So
you're trying to, like, squeeze like a an orange that there was no more juice in, right? Like,
Yes. Oh,
what did you,
100%.
and
Like maybe one day they'll pick up.
and I think most people do that. Like, that's the thing I love about this business is like more people are alike than they are not alike. Like I was talking to Jacob, and I'm like, he's a newer agent. He's right, helping 3-4 families a week. And like everything he's saying, I'm like, dude, I remember thinking that. And then I just talked to like 7 other people the last 2 days, and they said the same thing. So it's like we deal with the same thing, right? It's the whole, can I get more from these leads? And then it's busy work, and you're like, I worked yesterday. I made all the dials. Like, I did what I was supposed to do. It ain't on me. It must be this or that. No. It was on you because you chose not to invest more in leads. And so, and then it's frustrating because the same people that don't pick up on Monday, they don't pick up on Tuesday or on Wednesday. So you just need to have more people to call. And so I think that's a big deal. What do you think has helped you, and I love how you spoke about like leaving conference, you really kind of thought about like disciplines and things you wanted to put in place to really propel the year. What are some things that helped you really kind of, I guess, take those disciplines and consistently do them over and over again, so much so where they became, habits? Because I think this is such a big deal. If we take a top producer and just an ordinary producer, or a top manager and an ordinary manager, I think the difference is just simply like their habits, what they do on a daily basis. And so what helped you develop the disciplines and habits that you now got that's really kind of helped you go out and help 20 families a week? What were some things you did?
So first, I feel like it starts with self-discipline. So getting your mental right, being focused on yourself, just taking care of yourself first, like working out, drinking water. And then the thing that I had to figure out was staying plugged into an office. That was like the main thing in the business. I got into a car accident about a month ago, and I had to dial from home on a Thursday. Let me tell you, it was not the same. I booked probably half of the appointments I would have booked in the office, dialing all day at home rather than half a day in the office. And staying plugged in was huge for me. Every Monday and every Thursday, we all go to the office, we dial together, we take lunch, we stay consistent, and we stay disciplined. Instead of like standing up and hanging out with one another, we're actually dialing. If somebody's slacking off a little, we'll be jokingly like, hey, how many dials have you had today? We just kind of hold each other accountable, and plugging in is kind of key for me personally. I can't really dial from home, to be honest with you. I couldn't do it. So,
Well, I've got 582 kids, so I definitely can't do it either. And my wife loves Amazon way too much. So it's like every 2.3 seconds, a doorbell rings and there's another package. So I'm like highly distracted. So I agree. But I think that's how everybody is. Now we try to convince ourselves a lot of times on things that keep us comfortable and keep us from moving to the thing that's going to really lead to growth. Right. And I think somebody might even say, well, my office, if I go to the office, I got to drive. I got to, if it costs me $1,000 to have an office space there, like that costs, and they don't realize what it costs them not to do those things. And I think that's a big thing for everybody on here is just ask yourself, whatever you're holding on to, that's the excuse or reason for you not to do whatever you hear repeatedly on these podcasts. What is it costing you to not do it? Like, what does it cost you to stay home? Like for you, after you said you booked half the amount of appointments, well, then that's not just like a statement. That's a number of revenue. Because then we can break down and say, well, how many appointments do you book normally? Is it 15? Or what do you normally book in a day, on a dial day?
for the next 2 days, I personally shoot for 18 to like 22.
Okay, so and do you usually hit like 20 on a dial day?
Yeah,
Okay, so 20 appointments, right? And then if you book 20, how many do you sit with usually?
like 11.
11. Okay. And then if you sit with 11, how many do you help?
Depending on the day, some days it's more than others. But so the last 2 days, for example, I had booked, I think, 23 to 24 appointments. I had 2 telesales. I helped 9 families last 2 days.
Okay. So, but if you look at, there's a ratio. So if you book 20 and you usually sit with 11 and maybe you help 8, like that would be your ratio. So if you book half the amount of appointments, then that means you would have helped half the amount of families. So if you helped 8, now you help 4. So what did that cost you? If the average client is paying $88 a month and that's $1,000 in premium, and you're just at 100% commission, that's $1,000. It cost you $4,000 in
There
that
we go.
one dial day, you know? And so, but that's how we got to look at it. And that way we can have the right perspective that causes us to move our feet forward in the direction that we need to go. And so I think that's such a big deal. So the office has really helped you. And it sounds like it's fun too. Like you guys will mess with each other
We stay
together.
disciplined, stay consistent, absolutely. So we'll help each other out. We'll check how many appointments one another has. We typically all eat lunch together, which is really cool. We'll talk about how many appointments we have. We'll check up on another. So we're a cool team.
I love that. And I think that most offices probably look like that. And you want to enjoy this. It's kind of like if like Afro, me and Andrew would always make this like a game. Like we try to figure out ways to have fun. Just because, you're selling insurance and it can get pretty monotonous sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And but if you can have fun with it, it just changes it. So we do little competitions like, hey, dude, I bet you I could book more appointments in the next hour than you. Whoever books the most, we got to buy lunch, or I got to send you $50. Like we just do little things like that, and we just make it fun. Well, that only can happen in an office environment. You know what I mean? Like that's the only place it can happen. But when it's fun, it changes everything. It's like, think about it. When something becomes fun, you put more attention into it, more focus into it. You give it more of your all when it's a game. I mean, I've watched some dudes, that they'll put like a reel on their Instagram of them playing like, what is it? Was it Fortnite or something? I don't play any games. Is it Fortnite? I'm like,
I think so.
that dude, if he could be that committed and focused to his business or anything, it'd probably produce some fruit. He's like in it, like having a blast, like 100% focused, like, and it's because it's fun. And so if you can make this thing fun, then typically you're going to actually go out there and probably perform better. Right. So I
I
love
agree.
that. All right. So anything else that's helped you believe develop these disciplines that have really kind of helped you get to this 20 plus families a month?
Just plugging in and honestly staying consistent. So like if I get a no-show, instead of kind of sitting in my car wondering what I'm going to do, I door knock. So I stole Marissa Maggio's system. She has like 5 door knocks for each lead appointment that she has. So if I get no-showed, I'll have like 5 door knocks in that area that I can do really quickly. I personally, I really enjoy door knocking. I had 6 appointments booked for tomorrow already today and all day because I door knocked yesterday. So that makes a difference. Door knocking makes a huge difference. Plus, if no one answers their phone and you show up at their door genuinely with a form, I mean, some are gonna be like, no, I don't want it. But most of the time people are like, oh yeah, I just never answer my phone. And I watch your podcast over and over about door knocking. I could tell you that podcast word for word. And that's what motivated me to door knock on, obviously, honestly. Like
Awesome. Well, I think
um,
like think about this. So when did you start with that system that Marisa has of every no show you door knock 5?
the last couple of months, honestly. It's
All
been
right.
pretty recent.
How many families do you think, and I know you might not have the numbers, but if you had to guess, like how many families do you believe you've helped from door knocking, whether that was right there on the spot or you went back the next day or whatever, and you ended up helping them that you normally wouldn't have?
Probably about 20%.
So 20% of the 20 families you're helping each month.
Is off of door knocking.
Okay. So think about that. Like that one little system, what that's led to as far as families served and how much money you made. 4 families additional a month. That's what people invest in their leads. Like that almost covers your whole lead investment every month just from what's produced from the door knocks. And so for anybody on here that's like, what's my big takeaway from this? If you're not doing that, that's a great takeaway. Right. And I think that that's also a great thing to analyze and reflect upon is to, ask yourself, like, when this happens, what do you typically do? Like if you get your butt kicked on the phones for an hour or two, what do? So usually, Paul, I'll go, you know, um, go on Instagram and just kind of relax or whatever. I'll go watch ESPN, whatever it is. Like when this happens, what do you do? And then if it's not productive, then you ask yourself, what would be the most productive thing I could do when that happens? Like if I get a no-show, what do I do? And then you start writing that down. When this happens, then I choose this. So you start to pre-decide, and that helps you develop new disciplines and habits. So then you just say, like, what did you do before, Afro, when you had a no-show? What did you normally do before you did this 5 door knocks?
I would do a little bit of door knocking, but I used to be very nervous about door knocking. So I'd maybe knock on a door. If somebody turned me down, I'd be like, all right, I'm not door knocking. Maybe I'll just show up to my next appointment a little early. And now I have this thing in my head where it's like, if I show up to my appointment early, I won't close them. So I never really show up early. Has to always be at least 5 to 10 minutes late. I don't know why. And I don't know if this is right or not, but I'll door knock. And then if I'm closing someone, great. If not, I'll finish the door knocks and I'll go to my next appointment.
I love it. Well, I don't know if it's right or not, but I did the same thing.
Okay.
Or it might just be a bad discipline because I'm late to about almost everything. You know what I mean? Tata, yeah. But I would always be late to an appointment because I just in my mind would think that, like, dude, I'm like a doctor. Doctor's always late to see you. Like, when's the last time you saw the doctor? And they're like, it's gonna be 5 minutes, and they call you back and forth. That's never happened to me. Usually it's like 20 minutes. I want to fight this dude. Like, why am I sitting here? But it creates that, hey, they're busy. They've got something of value. And because it's so valuable, they've got a lot of people pulling that need it. And so I agree with that. Now, the one thing I want to say to that, and we'll move on to the last point, but after, like, I don't know if you intentionally did this, but when you said you convinced yourself that if you show up early, they're not going to buy, like, why did you do that? Like, is that?
I don't know. So I just feel like every time I've showed up early, I haven't really had any luck to where they're like, oh yeah, I've never really, I will sell people who I show up early too, but I feel like if I wasn't door knocking, or I feel like they respect you a little more when you show up late and you're like, I'm sorry, I got caught up with my last family. I'm helping 12 families today. They're just like, oh my God, yes, come in. I feel like psychologically people want what they can't have. So if you kind of like give them, but then you like take away a little bit, they're like, okay, I need this more. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
I agree 100%. I loved it when the client was like, dude, you're an hour late. I'm like, I know, man. And I know that you probably didn't expect me to come by, but I did as a courtesy because I know how important this is for you guys. So my last client is going to be way behind, but I know how important it is for you. You want me to take my shoes off or leave them on? And it was just like, I would flip it on them and use it for my benefit. But the thing is this, guys, even if that wasn't true, because maybe we're wrong. Maybe we're both wrong. Maybe if you show up early, it's better. I don't know. I did the same thing though. But what I'm saying is, like, if you can convince yourself of something that leads you to the right decision, just so the fact that you say, if I'm early, then I don't sell it. So therefore I got to go door knock 5. Right. And I would always tell myself that if I don't go to my last appointment, that's the last appointment they always buy. The last appointment that's at 9:30 at night, they always buy. And because I convinced myself of that, I would always go. Would they always buy? No. But my close ratio was highest in the last appointment, probably because I believed that. And it caused me to not go home early and reschedule that one appointment because I was so far behind or I didn't feel like doing it. And so if you can convince yourself of these little things that cause you to choose correctly, it's like the right manipulation. You got to manipulate yourself in the right way. I know I do. So, all right, I'm going to hit you with a couple like rapid fire things to kind of get to know you. Right. So what's your favorite book?
The Secret.
Okay. That's a good book. Favorite quote?
Favorite quote. Okay. The only impossible journey is the one that you never start.
I like that. That's
By
a good
Tony Robbins. And that kind of ties back to this business because I feel like if I had never took kind of a leap of faith because I didn't really know what it was going to be like, I would have never been in the position I am today.
Absolutely. And I think that's so applicable for everybody on here right now. There's something that, if you stepped into it's gonna lead you down the right path, but you're stuck thinking too much about it. And it's just once you take that first step and begin, then all of a sudden things start to work together to reveal themselves and keep you moving. Faith is only started by action, right? Without it, it's dead. Favorite Netflix series?
Oof. I haven't watched Netflix in a long time, but when I did, I used to watch Grey's Anatomy because I used to be in nursing school.
The funny thing is my 15-year-old, she started watching that because I remember, like, Afro, how old are you?
I am 27.
Okay, so I'm 35. And I remember watching like that show being out when I was a kid. Like, it's been out for a long time, right?
It has.
So I walked in, my daughter's watching it, and she's been like binging on Grey's Anatomy, right? She's 15. And then so last week I'm like, what are you looking to be like? We're talking about college because she's trying to get an offer for a scholarship with her athletics and soccer. And she's like, well, I think I want to be like a doctor. And I was like, really? Since when did that happen? She's like, I don't know. I just feel like that. And I was like, oh, it's probably Grey's Anatomy. That's probably
100%.
what it is. So anyways, if for anybody on here, if your kid's got like a desire to be something that's not very, good as far as career profession, have them watch Grey's Anatomy and all of a sudden they'll want to be a doctor too. It'll help them out. But Afro, I appreciate you hopping on. This has been really, really good. I took a lot from this. I know everybody did on here. This is one that I don't even think I have to tell you guys to share if you want to make a difference. You've already kind of done it because of how good it was. Make sure to comment below anything that you guys want as far as like, hey, actually do this. Any questions you've got for Afro, comment below. I'll get them to her, and we'll also, make sure to provide the answers to your questions as well, guys. And subscribe so that way you're up to date with all the content that we'll continue to produce. That way this year you can consume better stuff than you did last year to set yourself up for more success. So Afro, I appreciate you joining. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Paul.
You got it. All right, guys, be strong, stay steadfast, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.